Let's turn to some politics now. In Florida, speculation growing as to whether Governor Ron DeSantis will run for president in 2024. Now, he's received a lot of attention. He's considered one of the most prominent, and he is the most vocal, one of the most vocal leaders within the Republican Party. The New Yorker doing a lengthy profile of DeSantis, calling him more disciplined than former President Trump. But former President Trump did speak out in response to the questions as to whether DeSantis could throw his hat in the ring, saying, I don't know if Ron is running, and I don't ask him. It's his prerogative. I think I would win. Recent polling data actually shows that that's likely true, as he has received 41% or more of the popular GOP endorsement. People would vote for him over Ron DeSantis, according to those polls. But the former president actually took credit for DeSantis' victory in Florida, saying if I didn't endorse him, he wouldn't have won. Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill, joining us now. I got to get to this New Yorker piece first, this deep dive into the way that DeSantis thinks, how much research he reportedly did on the medical data surrounding COVID-19, which informed his decisions to protect the most vulnerable, including the elderly, but then lift all restrictions on businesses and schools following an initial lockdown. Is this the #1 reason the governor has received so much popularity, not just in Florida, but around the country?
Good morning, Adrienne. It's certainly one of them, and I would say it's within the top 3, if not #1. You know, I was in Florida for most of 2020, and it was fascinating to see how Ron DeSantis governed during the pandemic compared to other states like New York or California, other big comparable states in terms of population. And we saw that much of Florida, and we know that Florida is known for its elderly population in some portions of the state, self-quarantined. There was lots of self-quarantining in Florida, and I think that ultimately helped in terms of the case count and the death count. I don't want to underscore how, deadly and dangerous the pandemic was in Florida, but we did see that Ron DeSantis did apparently successfully walk a very fine line in terms of keeping businesses open and, in terms of those self-quarantining for the more vulnerable populations. And we've seen that since the pandemic. Lots of Americans, whether they're from New York or other parts of the country, have come down to Florida because Florida is essentially, according to Ron DeSantis and many of his supporters, is open for business. So he's gotten a lot of praise for his handling of the pandemic. But I have to say, during parts of the pandemic, he was getting a lot of criticism. But as we're hopefully, knock on wood, nearing the end of this thing, I think people say that Florida has done pretty well for itself.
Yeah, and really DeSantis has become this figure second only to the former president among the GOP party. Similar to the former president, he really doesn't seem to give a care. I can't use the colorful language used in many articles, but he just doesn't care what people think. Do you think the American people are looking for someone who will not kowtow to popular opinion? I mean, at least within the Republican Party.
I do think the hardcore Republican conservative base absolutely likes that. And I think there is a fatigue among Americans when it comes to your traditional politician. I think there is a need maybe, or Americans feel a need or a want for some sort of an outsider, whether that's from the left or the right. So maybe Ron DeSantis fits that profile, even though we know he's been in politics for some years now, was a former congressman before this. But Adrienne, just taking a look at Florida, it's fascinating to watch it. Florida is really the center of the Republican universe. I mean, you have President Trump holding court down in Palm Beach in the southern part of the state, and you have Ron DeSantis in Tallahassee holding court up there. So, it's amazing to see how much of the GOP universe is focused on Florida, and the fact that we have the top 2 leading Republicans in polls, President Trump and Ron DeSantis, in terms of 2024 speculation, being down there. So we should all keep an eye on Florida to see what happens next. It seems like that's the slogan for lots of elections.
And I mentioned at the top of this that there have been polling showing that former President Trump would win ahead of DeSantis and former Vice President Mike Pence. But I do have to mention this. I know producers, just be patient with me. Earlier this month, a straw poll at the Western Conservative Summit found DeSantis surpassing former President Trump among potential 2024 contenders by a few points. So the data is in flux, and we might see a decision maybe about DeSantis changing his mind, even though he's saying he's focused on Florida. We'll find out, Julia.
Right, and we know that Right. And we know that 2022, DeSantis is running for re-election. So he says he's focused on that. But keep an eye out for 2023. We'll probably hear some news one way or another that year.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.